Fields of Green this week. We've been making quite a lot of progress on the legal front. Unfortunately, I can't give too many details because until certain papers are in certain courtrooms, we can't disclose too much because one never knows what happens with these papers being handed into the courts. I also had a nice long conversation today for about an hour and a half with Neil from the Hayes Club. They're waiting for their set-down date in the name of their judge, and they're expecting it to be sometime in September. And I'm really proud of that young man, you know, since the first time that we met him, and we met him down in Cape Town in February this year, he's really come a long way, and it's not easy for him having lost his business and having to make do financially for him and his family. It's very difficult. So he's really developed such a consciousness about cannabis. You know, isn't it nice sometimes? Dale, you've been around with us for years. Joe's been around for longer than I can even remember. Isn't it nice when you see the young people growing up?
Yes.
I mean, even you're
We've watched you grow up.
We've watched you grow up, you know? Yeah. I love to tell the story of how Dale joined the team at Fields of Green. I got this, I think it was a text message or something, from this young guy who said, can I come and help at your store for D-Day? And I said, sure, we never say no to help. And it was Dale, and he came and helped, and he's been at every single D-Day since then, and now he's on the Hot Box show, now he's part of the Fields of Green team. So it's really nice for us oldies to watch the younger people grow up and really come into themselves and stand in their own power. And I can say that Neil from the Hayes Club is certainly one of those people, and he's really become an asset to cannabis law reform in South Africa. But that's the young people, and we really I love surrounding myself with lots and lots of young people. But this week we also had the very, very sad news that came in yesterday morning, that Frenchie Cannoli had passed away. Now, if you're a young person, maybe you don't know who Frenchie Cannoli is. There he is up on the screen. Isn't that a beautiful face? Frenchie is French, as you could say, and he is the legendary hash maker. Now, Jules and I never met Frenchie in person, but it feels like we've met him because we've met so many people who are so close to him. The first time we heard his name was through Simon Strainhunter, and then last March when we were in Barcelona, we met Mila, the hash queen, and her and Frenchie are like brother and sister. And it was really great to meet that hash legend. You know, she was in India in the 60s when they were rubbing charas. Jules also spent time up there in Manali rubbing charas. So there's that whole generation where those times are past now. And unfortunately, Frenchie went in for surgery and there was complications, and he passed away on Tuesday night. So we'd like to send our condolences to Madame Cannoli. Frenchie worked for many years in the southwest of France and in northern Spain, and really perfecting various hash making skills. And if you're interested in that amazing thing called hash, I really would encourage you to go and look at his Instagram feed and go and watch some of his videos. You really will learn a lot. When I was in England in the 90s, you know, all that there was to smoke was hash.
Yeah.
You know? And a lot of people that are my age or people who've spent time in the UK know that, I don't know about now, but certainly in years gone by, it was impossible to get weed flower. Hey? When you were in England? Did you
No, it was
smoke
really,
flower?
really difficult. Yeah.
Difficult and whatever. And yeah, Frenchie's one of those guys who from those days has carried on the tradition of hash. So we're just sending our condolences to his friends and family. And other things that are in the news, Joe suggested to me just before the show that we give out a really nice big shout out to a media house called Cannabis Africa. Now, Charles has been speaking to both Brett, who's the publisher, Brett Hilton Barber, and Romanus Borain, who is the main journalist. And we've got Charles on the blower on the other side, just to tell us how this relationship with Cannabis Africa has panned out over the last few months. Charles, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Hello. So, Charles, tell us about your meeting with Brett and Romanos and how we're developing this working relationship with them.
You know, I noticed their stories because I have something that they call a news crawler that goes on the internet and brings me news with keywords for data and cannabis and you know, the field that we're in. And their stories kept on coming up, and in the end, I had to make contact, and I sent them a mail, and we set up a Zoom meeting. And they turned out to be really nice people, you know. It's good to have a media company that's got a cannabis focus. There aren't many of them around. This is about the only one that I think we have in this country. And the mainstream media don't always approach cannabis from the right angle, and they seem to do exactly that. And they've kind of slotted in quite nicely next to the content at Fields of Green that we publish at Fields of Green from time to time. So it's good to have somebody else running next to you in the race, you know.
Exactly, because, you know, especially in the last sort of 6 months or so, it's been very difficult for the Fields of Green team to keep up with the content, because it takes approximately 3 hours to write a blog post. But that's if you're writing blog posts every few days, you know. But if your turn to write the post only comes by in another 3 weeks, you're going to take 4 hours to write that blog post, because it's not something that you're doing every day. I'm sure, Charles, you would agree with me there.
Yeah, you get into a rhythm if you write often now. At Cannabis Africa, I can't even keep up with all their content. I have to remind myself to go and check every day, because they tend to publish stuff at least twice a week, and then it's not one story, it's 3 or 4 or 5 at a time. And they've been doing this quietly in the background for a while. So if you go on their website, there's a massive backlog of really good content, which they seem to shuffle up quite nicely. I bump into good stories from time to time that I didn't notice before, so they kind of, you know, change the menu every time you visit, so you see something else. So yeah, it's a good site to visit if you feel like some good reading. I haven't picked up too many skewed opinions, you know. Cannabis is a very difficult subject to approach, and one has to have a full spectrum view of all the issues around the plant, and they seem to really get it quite right.
They have been my go-to for sourcing when we're doing sourcing information for the show. This evening, all 3 stories, my information I've sourced from Cannabis Africa, because they've got the best information. So, yeah, I'm very grateful for them, because it's nice to have some quality cannabis content, relevant. It's like,
yeah, you know, they've even managed to squeeze in an interview with Tito Mboweni.
Exactly.
Something that the mainstream media haven't been able to do.
Yeah.
All they've had is like a little picture of his weed plant that leaked onto Twitter, you know. They haven't spoken to the man, but Cannabis Africa, they have.
Yeah, they were very quick to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was really excited because in the 1980s I lived in Yeovil, and there was I used to hang out with lots of journos and media people and that, and I remember Brett Hilton Barber from then. And, you know, I was just sort of like a young student in those days, and I sent him, he sent me an email asking about something the other day, and I sent an email back and said to him, you know, we used to hang out in Yeovil, sort of, in those days. He says, yeah, no, I remember you and your friend Susie and whatever. So he's a really, really seasoned journalist. He comes from a long line of journalist / activist people in his family. So I think that's also one of the reasons why we're seeing mature reporting from them. And it really is the first time that we've seen that. Now, we're not talking about cannabis culture publications like Seven Leaf, who we must catch up with Sam sometime soon. You know, we're talking about a media house that is pumping out that content. And sometimes we feel at Fields of Green we're a little bit alone in that space in terms of serious content. So we're very pleased to be partnering with them, aren't we?
Yes. Very much so. Maybe they should help Chiba write the journalist's guide to writing about cannabis.
What a good idea.
The journalists in South Africa need to learn how to write about cannabis. I'm tired of hearing about the difference between dacha and medicinal cannabis. it's all the same plant. But anyway, so we love cannabisafrica.com. Thank you guys for insisting.
Yeah, the subject has a bottomless pit, and one of the stories they published recently was on the, did they say, biopiracy of cannabis. You know, there's this danger that they could come and, you know, remove our strains by planting too many foreign cultivars that poison our local gene pool.
Well, this is actually our second story for tonight.
You guys are discussing.
That's our second story for tonight, as we're talking about the biopiracy.
Yeah, I mean, I've not seen any stories on that subject before. Right. You know, Fields of Green have maybe touched on it, but this is the first time in recent months, anyway, that I see anything on the subject. And it's a fascinating subject and an important one, I believe.
Yes, it is. Yes,
a very, very important one. I think that Russ Yellow, Warren, is going to be joining us just a little bit later to speak about that. Anyway, I've said enough for now. And